Hi guys, in this review we're covering my Maxi Switch keyboards. This one here was actually the first vintage keyboard I bought in a lot of 4, of which I sold all the other 3. But I do have 2 more here, which I've also bought and want to show you in this sort of comparison video, I guess. Now yes, these are all made by Maxi Switch and have some really important differences that's worth off showing. So first off, I got this 101 key model 2189 about a year ago. It's pretty good. I like it so far. And then I got this Maxi Pro 2, I think is what it's called. Expanded layout keyboard with all the programmable keys. It's basically the Maxi Switch version of the any key, without all the gateway stuff on it. And then this one here that I got recently, this AT layout version, that's a little bit more different between the others. All 3 of these keyboards have a Maxi Switch dome with slider, which is a rubber dome with a slider inside of it. However, this one has a PCB, and these 2 use membranes. And here's what the switch looks like under a keycap. You can see it is also Cherry MX mount, which means you can use aftermarket keycaps. However, for all of these boards, the stabilizers are incompatible. So be aware of that. And for the big ass enter, the slider is actually like in the middle of the key and not like centered on the ANSI portion. Some people have reported this switch to be stiff and mushy. Well, not 100% of the case. And that's where I really want to show you. For example, this basically any key is, has that, I guess, stiff and mushy somewhat feel. It doesn't feel quite as tactile either. Although the tactility itself is sharp feeling. Like, you can definitely tell when the pad hits the membrane, but there's still a little bit more travel. Like, you can just push down the key and it doesn't really like feel mushy like this, but like when you're typing, it still sort of has a mushy feel to it. However, these boards feel much better, I think. These do not feel mushy at all. Pretty, mechanical. A nice, sharp feeling for a dome. This actually feels pretty close to 55 gram taupe, or about a little bit lighter. And still, a year later, this is still one of my favorite rubber dome keyboards. And this is the same feeling, although it sounds a little bit bassier, nicer. Although I think that could be due to the differences on the inside of this one compared to these 2. This one is a 2186002 model that uses a PCB instead of a membrane, so in theory this should be more durable than the membrane ones. There is also a 2106003 that's still PCB mounted, or PCB driven, in a 101 key layout like this. So, the best of both worlds between these 2, really. And all of these boards have these nice thin ABS double shots. These are the DCS keycaps. You can find the same kind of caps you can find on Wise keyboards, and a lot of these Maxi Switch boards have them too. They're pretty nice. I like them. As far as build quality goes, they're all pretty good, although the later ones have the edge when it comes to build quality, because these have a thick metal backplate that gives them more heft, while this PCB version doesn't have any metal backplate, so it feels a little bit lighter and flimsier, whereas these feel a bit more solid and tanky. This one especially, because it's really heavy. It's like a rubber dome board. It's hard to pick it up with just one hand. As you can see, both of these have, the push button springy flip out feet, which are kind of nice. And they stay in place pretty well too, so you don't have to turn the keyboard over to flip the feet out. These keyboards are pretty easy to take apart with just the 6 screws here. Putting them back together is kind of a pain because these feet with the springs, it makes them really hard to put back together without the springs flying out and potentially losing them at the feet. So if you could get someone to help you when putting these back together, it's definitely a good idea for these. So here's the model sticker for the 2186002, the AT layout version. You can see it has an ATXT switch and then a second switch for swapping the escape and tilde keys, which some people might like, because then you have the escape in the right position. And to be honest, that does make more sense to me when using this keyboard, because escape is in the natural place while tilde is over here, which is fine. I don't use that key much anyway. The date stamp was missing on this keyboard, but it's definitely from the late 80s. Although with the 101 key, you can see it as a manufacture date of 1992. And yeah, there's a kind of a hidden screw under it, so I had to do that when taking it apart, putting it back together. It has the same back plate and assembly, and it's even the same size as this model, which I found interesting. But here's the sticker for this one, model 2189. There's also a couple other versions using this case style. I think the 2192 as well. That one had different flip out feet. This button was fake on the side. And then they changed the case, and then the keycaps went to laser ABS. So, these older versions are better, especially if you get a 2186003. That's the 101 key and PCB switches that don't have the, the weakness of membranes. And taking a look at the back of the Maxi Touch, or Maxi Pro 2, I think it is, the big any key style keyboard. Also have 8 screws. However, the ones in the front corners, they're under the feet, but they're not covered up. So you don't have to remove the feet. And, you don't lose the stickiness. So that's a really good design. I wish, more modern keyboards had that. And then here's the model sticker of this one. It's made in 1994. Although this one has 2 types of flip out feet. So you have the tall ones on both ends. Then you also have this huge short one in the middle that goes, a good length of the whole keyboard. And then you also have a little bit of a cable gutter on this one, which is pretty nice. The layout of this one is a little bit different than of a branded any key. I think F11 and F12 are replaced with these extra field and delay function programming keys. I think this is like delaying output, delaying output. I was getting confused with the repeat rate because that's over there. And then, I don't know, but I did save a PDF of the manual. I think I'll link that down below. It explains more of the functions of these things, because I can't remember what they all do. And also, this one comes with a T-nav by default, as you can see, compared to the star nav on the any key. And then that does give you 5 blank keys if you want to program those into whatever. But yeah, all these keyboards have their pros and cons, really. All these keyboards use a normal 5-pin DIN plug with the AT protocol. Pretty easy to get them working. However, I have found an issue running into using them with a PS2 adapter through a PS2 converter. Some of the keys sometimes hang, and then it'll like mess up everything. So I would advise using them with a Sorors, because that doesn't happen with using a Sorors. Although the cable on the AT board is really nice and thick. Nice, yeah, thick cable. But in the end, I think these are all pretty nice keyboards. This one has, the best functionality, but probably the worst feeling switches. Really, this one has a great all-rounder. Still has membrane. And this one, older, but better feeling and more durable switches. Although, just don't forget, remember, you can get the PCB versions in a 101 key layout. Yeah, they all have nice keycaps, nice build quality, nice switches, nice sound. You really can't go wrong with these. Although the prices for these tend to be too much online, so, don't pay too much for one of these. So, but yeah, I think that'll conclude it for this review. Thank you for watching, and I do have typing tests for these, I think. I'm questioning myself if I have a typing demo for this one on the channel. But yeah, check those out for those. But yeah, thank y'all for watching. Hope y'all enjoyed.